fellow countrymen and women, these are our ministers and permanent secretaries at the front bench, representing the various ministries and answering the questions that matter to us. Join the conversation. This is the front bench.
It's 23 minutes to 9 p.m. Good evening. Again, thank you very much for joining us here on the front bench as we get to the bench and discuss matters that concern you, our dear Ugandan. Please do note that here we engage your leaders as we address the concerns, and the most important thing to note is that decisions have always been made at the front, and that is why we are here to bring you that and more of the conversations. And we are diving into the bit of the technical understanding of how the STI Secretariat does operate, or how the Science, Technology and Innovation Secretariat really operates, before we even dive into the other conversations that we are likely to be having for the next 1 hour. But please do note, you can be part of these conversations. By the way, we will be having a number running on your screen, 0709602592, SMS, and also via WhatsApp. And of course, the minister will be able to answer to some of those concerns or questions that you do have. I will definitely get right into it by getting to understand how the Secretariat really operates. Again, Honorable Dr. Musenero, you're most welcome to the show. The STI Secretariat, how different is it from the other ministries that we've been having here, I should ask?
Thank you very much. The Secretariat is part of the Office of the President, and before this, Uganda had a full Minister of Science. It had which was similar. But after a while, it was realized that that framework does not work for science because it does not work properly in a typical public service system. So during the formation of this current government, His Excellency the President closed the other ministry and established the Secretariat at the Office of the President. And this Secretariat is designed to be quite different from a ministry. For example, we don't have a lot of bureaucracy. We are flat structure. We operate seamlessly, and we interact very, very closely, everybody. We are more action-oriented, very, very action-oriented. So we spend a lot of time moving from both technical to policy, but very, very action-oriented, because in its definition, a secretariat is an operational office, which is less encumbered with a lot of bureaucracy, actually. So the gap between the technical people, the minister, actually, they call me a technical minister. So I'll be doing most of the talking, because 70% of my work is technical. And then only 30% is related to political and policy issues. But 70% of my time, I spend it working on technical issues for science, technology, and innovation. And the president brought this because he wanted a short system which will be just focused on delivering results in the shortest time possible. Now you will realize that Uganda has been trying to do science, technology, and innovation for a long time. Since the formation, actually, first there was an East Africa Council of Science, Technology, and Innovation. Then we brought things home, and in 1990 we had the National Council of Science and Technology as the framework for science in the country. And then in 2016, a ministry was formed. So Uganda has been investing. We have some institutions, but the coordination mechanisms for this to achieve something have been done in different frameworks. So the current framework, which has been driving your science, technology, and innovation, I hope that people feel it. You feel the science, technology, and innovation wherever you are in the country is the Secretariat at the Office of the President.
Well, of course, I want to believe my viewer now gets to understand how different this is, because the majority of the ministries have been having a little bit more political and policy-oriented. So here we're going into the technical bit of things. So the conversations will be a little bit more of science and indeed technology. Now, Honorable, I wonder though, how does the STI Secretariat, embed the entire aspect of science, technology, innovation into our economic planning as a country and ensuring that they align in the same, agenda the country has of socio-economic development?
Now, science, technology, and innovation represent three things. Science literally represents the knowledge component, the knowledge that people need, the scientific knowledge to understand how science relates. Technology is when you translate that knowledge to build things, either soft things or hard things. If I translate my knowledge of the chemical composition of a plant into working on a drug, now I'm developing a technology using that science. Then innovation is when you put these two together, the knowledge and the tools that you've developed or technologies to solve problems and come up with, because when you have solved the problems, when you are able to address somebody's problem, that's when they will buy. So that is, the three have to come together. They are a continuum. Now, if you only do science and you do not do technology development, you will not touch your economy. If you do only technology development but does not become innovation, then you'll end up with a lot of things like which look like innovations, but they sit in your universities or they sit in your science institutions, but they do not touch the economy. It's when an innovation, when a technological development can solve as a problem that money has, and then you are able to put up systems to mass produce that solution. For example, if I know that this particular plant can heal, but I'm the only one who knows. But when I formulate that into a drug, and then I know, oh, this drug can cure, if I just use it in my home, it won't touch the economy. But should I test it and now take it and manufacture it and sell it, then it will touch the economy. So STI touches the economy when it produces goods and services which can be sold. That is how it touches. Now, I talked about Uganda having this history of science, technology, and innovation for a long time. However, those things which came, they did for us a lot. Institutions like NARO, which have done a lot of agricultural research, they touched the economy, they have produced for us good varieties, they reached that innovation point where they solved our national problems. Now, the aspiration of government is that the science actually should catalyze, I hope that we all know catalysts. When something is working, then it accelerates very fast. So science and technology is an accelerator of something. For example, if you're producing a crop at a certain rate, science and technology comes in and develops for us a fertilizer. Now you can use the same plot of land and you can now produce a lot. So science and technology is the catalyst that makes an economy develop. And so that challenge is actually what led to the change in the framework of science and technology. Because although we are producing things in the country from our universities, from our institutions, we are not able to touch the economy. So the change from the former ministry to now is because the Secretariat is focused on linking science to the economy. That is the focus of the Secretariat. Because there was a study which was done in 2019, the report came out at the end of 2020, and it showed that although we were doing a lot of research in our institutions, the way we were going about it, it will not accelerate the economic growth.
Okay.
And so this change by the president was to actually get that, and that's what we have been at since then.
Okay, and I would like to also bring in Dr. Cosmas here. When you look at some of the strategies being laid or employed by the STI Secretariat to ensure that we are heading to the vision that would see the science, technology and innovation space of Uganda grow and of course lead to development. What are some of those, if you can also share some bit of the progress that we do have so far?
Thank you very much, Joram. That's a very important question. You see, the Honourable Minister talked about the report that came out in 2020. It pointed us to salient gaps in our STI that needed to be to be addressed in order for us to reach the aspirations that are laid out in Vision 2040. And if I could point out a few, one was the lack of intentionality in how STI was being implemented. People were doing STI, doing research in universities, but to what end? You can register a lot of research being undertaken, but if it is not impacting the economy, then, because that's where the rubber hits the road. So, and then also there was a gap in the technical leadership of STI in the nation. So some of the changes that have come to the fore now, since 2021, relate to the intentionality. Our goal now is to ensure that all our STI interventions lead to an economic impact on 3 fronts. 1, productivity acceleration. 2, import substitution. And 3, export. Can we reduce the hemorrhage that is arising from us importing almost everything? Now, the second change that came to the fore was focusing on specific areas. We can't do everything and we can't be good at everything. It's important for us to focus on a few areas and make them count. So now this concept of broad industrial value chains now forms part of our strategy. We have 8 of those. We have 5 value chains in what we call the new economy. The new economy means us engaging in producing what were traditionally not being known to produce. Joram, if someone came to you 10 years ago and asked you if Uganda is a vehicle producing nation, probably you'd say no. Someone asked you if we're able to make a vaccine, you'd say no. So now we start to make entry into these areas. Mobility, to do with making of vehicles and affordable and self-sustaining transport systems. Pathogen economy, where we now talk about making of healthcare inputs, vaccines, diagnostics, therapeutics. Then we look at aeronautics and space science. We look at Industry 4.0, the high tech. So we have these broad industrial value chains that inform all our interventions. So we have a very clear strategy that is supposed to be our blueprint to leading us to achieving all the STI goals, to ensure that STI becomes an anchor for the economy. And Joram, I should mention that now the government has realized and STI is one of the 4 anchor sectors that are underpinning the implementation of NDP4. I think you must have heard of the ATMs.
Yes.
The S is the STI, and in addition to contributing on its own, it is supposed to also help the other sectors also deliver on their mandate. And the target is very clear. Right now our GDP is about $55 billion. His Excellency has been very emphatic. Our target is a GDP of 550 billion by 2040. So now we talk about the qualitative leap of the economy, the tenfold growth. You must know that in 2010, when we started out implementing Vision 2040, our GDP was probably around 25 billion. So we're saying that over the past 15 years of implementation, 14 years, we have only been able to double the GDP. But over the next 15 years that are left in the lap to 2040, we want to grow tenfold. So that is the task at hand, and that means that we cannot do things in the business as the usual manner, and that is why STI comes in as the catalyst, as the accelerator, to ensure that everything we're doing has greater impact than what has been implemented before.
Okay. And Honorable, do you want to add something before we move into the next questions here?
Yes, something very brief is just to emphasize again the intentionality. The intentionality, that intentionality has those aspects. One, we want to use STI to attain what we call a qualitative leap. Qualitative leap is a concept the president is always talking about. This is a nation grows in its GDP, but not because you have increased the volume of what you're producing, but because you have improved the quality of what you're producing, because you're not selling raw materials anymore. So that intentionality. And then the next level is, so how do we achieve it? And if they could show, we have a very clear strategy. We call it STI House, which Cosmas has talked about. It's a very, very clear strategy. So this sums up our policy framework. The policy framework is, how do we make science drive the qualitative leap of the economy? And so we have things that are just STI bringing on the road, bringing on the economy, but we also have to support the other ones. Each of the sectors requires that STI comes in and accelerates them. We don't take over their work, but if, for example, we are able to produce products which can then make them perform better and they are cheaper, that is what that's how STI comes in.
Oh, and of course on the screen is the STI Economic Highway, a bit of the things that you can easily see: the science, technology, innovation, manufacturing, and then commercialization. Honorable, back to you. When you look at some of the key challenges that we do have in advancing science, technology, and innovation is lack of professionals in the fields of science, technology, mathematics, in all these fields. How is the ministry, or how is the secretariat, doing in order to attract the young people or the young professionals into this field? And of course, to see that we are advancing steadily within the entire space.
Yeah, actually, at the secretariat, we have something we call the development triad.
Okay.
It is a triangle where you have your natural resources, then you have time, and the other apex is actually people, the human capital. So you cannot develop science without you having the right human capital. Now, this has been very interesting for us to examine. When I was first appointed, I thought, oh, I have so many scientists, this should be easy to get this. But we have now categorized scientists into three. We have three categories of scientists. The first category are the basic scientists. These are people who understand science. They understand the knowledge. They can explain that formula of physics. They can explain the structure of chlorophyll. They really understand the depths of science. So we have some of those. Some of them have been trained in our different universities. And then the second category are what we call professional scientists. Now, professional scientists are individuals who have understood the basic science, but they are applying that knowledge to a specific area. For example, if I'm a doctor, I have understood how the body works, how medicines work, how to tell the disease, and so I will deliver a service. So you find that the majority of our scientists fall there. They are doctors, they are medical doctors, they are engineers, they use the knowledge to deliver a service. Now there is a third category of scientists we call the industrial scientists. Now we have a few, not so many. We used to have more basic scientists. Majority of them serve as teachers, and many of them, we stopped training a lot of them. Then we have a lot of professional scientists, but we have very few industrial scientists. The good news is that you can convert them. If somebody has basic science and they understand basic science, with the addition of a few, some additional knowledge, a few skills, some attitude, skills to interpersonal skills to work in a non-hierarchical system, to respect the ideas and discuss, to be very innovative, you can convert these categories of scientists. So what is the strategy? In the meantime, we don't have a lot of time. So what we do is we have a strategy called rapid conversion. That is, you get either basic scientists or professional scientists, equip them with these additional things and make and so that they are able to work as industrial scientists, because industrial scientists must convert knowledge into products and services. So one of the strategies to get scientists who can work in what we are doing is rapid conversion, and we have developed programs for that. We have programs at the Secretariat, we have an internship program, we have team building programs, we work with universities to try and educate them and convert them. We are also setting up platforms which for bigger conversion. Now that we have put together these programs, we know what works. For example, we have a facility that has been put up in Rebitete, and another component of it is in Namanve. This one we are calling it the LDC of engineering.
Okay.
We use LDC of engineering because people understand what LDC
means.
Yes, what the Road Development Center, but this time of engineering. When you have basic scientists who have graduated from our universities, you go and take them through a very specific program so that they become industrial scientists. The second approach that we are using is to attract diaspora, because even for training, for skilling these people, we need the people in the diaspora. We have a lot of Ugandans outside there who have skills, and creating programs which attract them to come, even if not fully to come back, but if they can contribute. The third one is through curriculum development. Working together with universities, National Council of Higher Education, and also working together with the Ministry of Education to make sure that the people who are not yet out of service, they are properly skilled, so that we have a significant increase in the number of industrial scientists. People can actually convert that knowledge into products and services. So this is our human capital strategy. It is more complicated when you come to see us, but we want the young people to love science. We want the young people to understand science in its entire scope, not just basic, not just professional, but also industrial.
All right. When we do return after the break, we're going to be having conversations around partnerships, and that will include private sector partnerships. But then also, we shall have a look into the ICT's policy framework and how the ministry is doing to address or get into what the policy framework works. I've also got some comments coming in from you, our dear viewer. We shall as well be getting into those immediately after the break. The conversations are live, and you can as well stream on YouTube, UBC TV Live. The hashtag on X is UBC's Frontbench, UBC Frontbench, and 0709602592 is where you can find us. After the break, we return with more conversations. Stick around.
Fellow countrymen and women, these are our ministers and permanent secretaries at the front bench, representing the various ministries and answering the questions that matter to us. Join the conversation. This is the front bench.
Here's your chance to win school fees for your child for a whole year. Just pay school fees using Momo. Dial *165 *80#. Select option 2 for school pay. Select option 1 to pay school fees. Enter the student number and amount and approve the transaction. You will now enter the draw to win school fees.
Paint and win. This year, Blascon Paint and Win. The cuckoo roundy. Chicho, buy paint worth 100K. Get a scratch card. SMS the code to 71197. Stand a chance to win instant airtime, 1 million shillings bully day there, or a share of a 3 million shillings jackpot each week. What do you want the brand new podas, tuk-tuks, and so much more? Catch the Paint and Win action every Monday on Bukede One, NBS, and Sanyuka TV. Plascon, color your world.
Here's your chance to win school fees for your child for a whole year. Just pay school fees using Momo. Dial *165 *80 hash. Select option 2 for school pay. Select option 1 to pay school fees. Enter the student number and amount and approve the transaction. You will now enter the draw to win school fees.
Plascon, paint and win. This year, Plascon, paint and win. The cuckoo roundy. Chicho, buy paint worth 100K. Get a scratch card. SMS the code to 71197. Stand a chance to win instant airtime, 1 million shillings bully day there, or a share of a 3 million shillings jackpot each week. What do you want the brand new podas, tuk-tuks, and so much more? Catch the paint and win action every Monday on Bukede One, NBS, and Sanyuka TV. Plascon, color your world.
Fellow countrymen and women, these are our ministers and permanent secretaries at the front bench, representing the various ministries and answering the questions that matter to us. Join the conversation. This is the front bench.
And yes, we are back. The conversations continue, and the hashtag is UBC Frontbench on X. 0709602592 is the WhatsApp number. Now, I do have comments coming through here, and I'll be going through some of those. The minister will be here to respond. I'll start with Hassan Pekka, a scholar in his third year. He says, good evening. I have questions regarding science and technology. My question is, what is the ministry doing about science and technology in schools around Uganda? Because according to my perception, I believe that the ministry should foster science and technology in many schools. But I would like to point out that most schools lack laboratories and even computers, which makes it hard to foster innovation in the nation. Then there is someone who also says the technology like blockchain is coming up globally. Do most Ugandans have the knowledge and understanding of the development? Odula Joseph does ask. And then this one says there should be decentralization of the economy for effective service delivery, because most of the services are benefiting those who have access to them. In Uganda, science is more theoretical than practical. So I think he's asking what the ministry is doing with that. Honorable, let's start with a bit of the education in schools.
Yes, thank you very much. The Science, Technology and Innovation Secretariat, yes, we work very closely with all the other sectors. So we work very closely with the Ministry of Education. Our role is really as enablers, as technology producers, to supply that sector. So one of the things that we are doing is why do we have few laboratories? Because it is very expensive to have. Why are the laboratories expensive? Because everything has to be imported. So one of the things, the programs that we are running is to do locally, make sure we can locally produce most of the inputs into laboratories. That project is running, and I believe soon we shall start supplying most of the schools, and that will be at a much, much lower cost than currently when they import. To really interest and engage young people in schools, last year we started a program. We have been prototyping it. We started a program called UG Innovate, that is promote science clubs, actually innovation clubs. We call it innovation clubs, that help students, especially with the new curriculum, convert the knowledge that they are learning into innovations, into products. So we are going to be pushing out those clubs, rolling them out across the country, so that young people can get to experience some hands-on. Specifically in the automotive industry, we have started mobility clubs already with some schools. The way we work is we'll first test this out, make sure that it is very good, and then we will move forward. I don't want him or her to be very discouraged, because STA Secretariat is just 3.5 years old, and we have done everything in these 3.5 years old. So we are coming, do not get discouraged. We are coming, we are decentralizing science, it's coming near you.
Okay, and of course, I think that answers questions to quite a number of concerns coming in from the viewer. I'll be getting back to some of these questions, though, but let me get to Dr. Cosmas. Doctor, I want you to paint for us a picture of the progress made so far by the Secretariat.
Thank you, Joram. We shared a number of graphics that will help us to distill the message. Earlier on, we talked about focus on particular areas that we think are best suited to drive our transformation. And I'll just give you a quick run through the progress that we made in some of these areas. For example, in mobility, Chira Motors now is a household name. Uganda is now well known on the African continent as a vehicle manufacturer. We have established the best and most competent vehicle manufacturing plant on the African continent. It has a capacity of 2,500 buses annually, and that is upgradable to 5,000 buses in the medium term. Chira Motors has already made 39 buses, and 40 more buses are under production. You must, I don't know, Joram, if you have traveled in any of these buses. They are the best in class buses, and we encourage all Ugandans.
I was there last year during the expo.
They are the best buses, not just in Africa, but in the entire world. Now, it's not just about Chira Motors, but we have also, because now the revolution is towards electric mobility. And Chira Motors, yes, is an anchor enterprise, but we have also mobilized the entire we call it the e-mobility consortium. So we look at, because like the Honourable Minister mentioned, our role is to mobilize and coordinate. We don't work alone, we don't work in silos. So we have mobilized this e-mobility consortium comprising more than 85 players that are in this space in 6 clusters, ranging from manufacturing, engineering to transport, logistics and operations, and MDAs as well. Including Minister of Finance, Minister of Energy, ICT, local government, KCCA. So each of these players has a role to play in the work that we're doing. And we have developed a national e-mobility strategy to guide the interventions in this space. I should tell you, Joram, that we have mobilized through this consortium more than $800 million in private sector investment. And $150 million of this has already been invested over the past year. If you have seen electric motorcycles on the road, that is the
There are
effort.
quite many lately.
There are quite many now. We have more than 5,000 actually on the road. And our target is to transform public transport fully to electric by 2030. And we are on track to do that. I should also mention that we have our eyes set on fully transforming mobility in all the cities that have been set up in Uganda. And we have started with Jinja, by the way, in a pilot, because we believe in action learning. We started by deploying 7 buses about 1.5 months ago to test out and build this prototype of a model that we can then scale. I'll tell you, Joram, that I think we have already proven that this is possible. We have validated some of our hypotheses that we had. For example, now we know that it is 80% cheaper to operate an electric bus than it is to operate a diesel, a fuel-driven bus. So you see, we have already tried out a cashless payment system on this bus. So these are things that we know work. We have already, because we have excess electricity production now, more than 800 megawatts in excess production. We have shown that just by deploying a few buses on the road for a month, you substitute fuel that you'd have imported by more than 100 million. And of course, you're saving the environment. So we're also looking at collecting data for carbon credits, because that's also green financing is where the world is headed now. If I could go now to Industry 4.0, which is really dealing with the high tech. We had pockets of intervention, especially in the private sector before, But we had, for example, our young people who were able to design electronics, but they would have to send them over to China for them to be printed. They call them printed circuit board assemblies. And that was at the risk of delays and, of course, the possible theft of intellectual property. What we have done now is establish end-to-end design and manufacturing capacity for electronics in one of our facilities in Namavi, meaning anyone can walk in with an idea, design, prototype, and manufacture an electronics product in Uganda. We have already demonstrated this. We have computers, we have smart meters, we have calculators, name it. So, in fact, now as we have full control of our electric transmission system and transmission distribution system, there is no reason why we should be importing meters, because we can make them here in Uganda. I'll go to the pathogen economy, and most of the work in the pathogen economy started in the COVID-19 period, championed by His Excellency and the Honorable Minister here who was leading preside at the time. I should tell you that, I don't know, Joram, if you've done a COVID test at Mulago Platinum.
No, I normally do them.
But you know what a PCR test is?
Yes, I know.
Yes. Now, you remember at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, those PCR tests were very expensive.
True.
But at some point, the cost dipped to about half the cost. And that was because of the effort of our scientists who developed a PCR kit. And the numbers don't lie. To date, that kit that was made by our scientists has been used for more than 2 million tests. If you do the math, 50% reduction in cost means that our country has saved more than $37 million in what would have imported. That's about 140 billion. And the investment that we made in that kit was only about $1 million. So that's the multiplicative power of STI. That's the qualitative leap that we're talking about, that we can invest $1 million and end up getting that 10-fold, 100-fold increment in value. And then there are so many other interventions that we're involved in, especially in agro-value addition. You must have heard of our investments in coffee value addition, our investment in banana value addition in Pibili and Mushenya starting to bear fruit. Our value-added banana flour, high-grade flour, is being imported by South Korea, is being imported by the US, by the Middle East, by countries in the Middle East like Saudi Arabia. So you realize that all the things that we're touching, we have already started to demonstrate value, and the companies that have arisen out of our innovations are already making money. And that's just the harbinger of the great things to come through STI.
All right. Let me get back to the Honorable. Let's talk about the PPPs, public-private partnerships within the space of science, technology and innovation. I wonder though, with the emerging technologies here, we have artificial intelligence. We've got various things coming up every other year on the global space in the field of science, technology and innovation. I wonder how the ministry works with the private sector to see that these collaborations impact the growth of the entire technology, science and innovation space in the country.
Thank you very much. Really, working in private sector is the core, and enabling private sector to take off. So it's not just PPPs. We work with the private sector in a number of ways. One, when things are young, the Ugandans have ideas. They write to us, they apply. We advertise usually, they apply. So we give grants to support them. Not only grants, but we also provide a lot of technical support, a lot of linkages. We want to have a budding private sector. Government comes in areas like Joram Motors, where private sector, there is no viable private sector to run this. So our main job is to create an enabling environment for the private sector to thrive, especially in these new areas where things are really unique. The environment is very, very unique. If you tried to just send them out there to fend on their own, they cannot survive. So we work by enabling the private sector. And so I know you've heard about our collaboration with Day Pharma to bring about the manufacturing of drugs. Right now, Uganda hosts the largest pharmaceutical manufacturing plant on the continent of Africa. And this has come because of a partnership between government and private sector. So their government comes in as an investor. We also work on the policies, but the main thing is that we're enabling this private sector to grow and to thrive, because they are the ones who are able to create the jobs. They are the ones who are able to sell. So really government doesn't want to establish parastatals so much, especially if there are areas where the private sector is. We also have a lot of trainings. We have a lot of trainings to help young innovators and our private sector to become investor ready, especially investor readiness, because most of our investors were not ready. But you can imagine us in just this short time being able to attract $800 million US commitment in investment, and already 150 million has come into the country as investment. So most of that money has gone into private sector. We have just made it very friendly. We are very supportive to the private sector. So then the facility, like the facilities that we have, like the one they are talking about at Namamve, where you can come in with an idea and go out with a product. You come in with an idea, you think through, you're supported through. Those are private sector companies. I know you didn't pick this, but the cashless transport system that is being used to manage the transport for Chira Motors buses is made in Uganda. It's a company called Kasaiba, and we just supported them a bit, and now they have gone commercial. They are employing people. So it is our main and core mandate to create a very supportive ecosystem so that the private sector can thrive.
Okay, and of course the private sector thriving means one thing, the economy is also growing. For those of you who have been following any trends whatsoever in what happens. Now I have so many questions coming in here. This one asks, ask the Minister of Science and Technology and on and the value adding, okay. Dan Masiko FDC Party Bishenyi asked something to do with any room of job creation report and anything that happens within the docket of creating job opportunities for the young people from the Secretariat Department. First, I didn't get the question so well here. Dan, let's try to be a little bit brief and also less political, because what we do have tonight is a bit more technical, I should say. And then this one talks about when will electric trains be tested. Bwire from Entebbe asks, since we are in a conversation of e-mobility. And then this, okay, Kazora says he appreciates government for constructing a university in Chiruhura. Okay. This one is saying, how is STI different from integrated science in primary schools? You didn't leave your name, and then this other person says a secondary school student from St. Lawrence SS Sonde in the names of Kelly. How will the ministry help students like me to understand subjects of entrepreneurship geared towards science, technology, and innovation? So I think we first of all take a little bit of that. There's someone who asked about the train, electric train. There's some other person who asked about entrepreneurship for students, especially in the field of science and technology.
Let me just mention about
and then someone talked about job
the
creation.
Job opportunities.
Yes.
Then Cosmas will respond to the technical questions, the
Okay.
other questions. So our goal at the STI Secretariat is to multiply jobs in the country. The Secretariat itself is actually very small. We have very few people, but their role is enabling, and we are creating the jobs. For example, Joram Motors already has created, we have about 204 employees. Recently they advertised, so they are going to recruit more. The target is to have 6,000 employees. So those are multiplied jobs out there. Day Farmer is going to be employing 12,000 people. I think they are at 2,000 now. So our focus is to create jobs in the economy, not so much create jobs at STI, because those are few, people live long, and Ugandans become frustrated. You are waiting for a job every year, people are graduating. So our focus is to accelerate. And at my last count, in the science projects that we are investing in, that we are funding across the country, we have about 2,000 young people employed. So as these things come up and they are rolled out, we are going to be giving a dashboard of how many new jobs created. And this is the promise we give to Ugandans, that as science grows, it opens up so many opportunities for jobs.
Okay, and of course the opportunities will be definitely coming in. And the other question that you're supposed to be taking in, Doctor, she asked about the technical bit of things.
They asked about integrated science and then electric trains.
Yes, so thank you, Joram. So we, like I mentioned earlier, we have developed the e-mobility strategy as our nation's blueprint towards putting in place accessible, efficient, sustainable, environment-friendly transport solutions. We started with electric buses and electric motorbikes because we think that's a low-hanging fruit, and we already have Joram Motors working on those. So the electric trains are further down the pipeline, so we haven't started, but now we've started on we have that in plan, but we haven't started the implementation. Now that said, when you look at, like the Honourable Minister mentioned, we are a coordinator. It doesn't mean that we're the ones doing all this. So if we're establishing an electric train system, each player will have what they are supposed to do. Ministry of Works will have a role. Ministry of Energy will have a role. Kampala's Capital City Authority will have a role. So now we'll bring together all these players so that we come up with a clear implementation framework. But that will be down the pipeline.
Okay. And yes. Honorable, when you look at the National ICT Policy Framework, looks at fostering a digital economy and also promote innovation. I wonder how the Secretariat has worked to implement this policy in, in the kind of work that you do generally, and the efforts that you're ensuring will lead to.
First of all, thank you, Joram, and thank you, our listeners. So sometimes people confuse the ICT ministry and STI.
Yes.
So the ICT ministry is the custodian of the ICT policy, and they are the ones responsible for implementing it. However, we have a role in the implementation of that policy. So the ICT ministry will work to set up the backbone, will set up to create the atmosphere for internet costs, to create that environment which is conducive for ICT and the transformation. However, they can do that with imported technology. Now, our role is to make sure that they do that with as much as possible with locally developed technology, such that we benefit from that component of the value chain. So we are a vessel, we are an enabler for the policy, not the ones who are implementing. For example, digitalization. It's the ICT ministry which is implementing that policy, but we have made sure that we produce cheap computers that people can best be able to move to be digital, because we have a computer which is about, the entire set is about I think 350,000. compared to the rest of the computers, because this computer has been made here. So not just assembled here, but designed, developed by our people here. Initially they were making them in China, now they can make them locally because of the facilities we put. So we are an enabler, and so we are partners with the ICT Ministry in the implementation. And you talked about blockchain and all that. So we are on the technology development end, such that as we implement these policies, they don't become parasitic. For example, if you say, okay, we are going to implement digitalization, but then you have to import all the computers, then that becomes very expensive in the country. And moreover, in the production process, we don't have any jobs for our young people. So if we are producing the computers here, then we expand the scope. So we are enabling that process, although the custodian of the policy is the ICT Ministry.
Okay. And Dr. Cosmas, I want us to look into the agriculture sector. It remains the backbone of our economy.
It is.
And I like the fact that science, technology, and innovation is taking that, that side of things. Again, one may wonder, when you look at agriculture, today in our generation, many countries globally are looking at, innovative agricultural practices. How are we faring as a country, and what do we have in plan, or what are we already working on?
That's a very important question, Joram, and we could look at it from two facets. Now, the key to us succeeding in agriculture as a nation is, one, to ensure that we are increasing productivity, especially with primary production. But I think the most important thing is value addition, ensuring that we are producing higher quality agricultural products. We did value chain analysis, and His Excellency the President likes to talk about, he emphasizes Chibalo, right? So it's not about investing or intervening in everything. If you're intervening in coffee, what's the bottleneck? It doesn't mean that there are some aspects, pockets of that value chain that are already doing so well. But what is that prime intervention that you need to put in place? So we did value chain analysis for coffee and found that for every 1 kilogram of unprocessed coffee that we export, we donate $3 to the world. So that means the farmer is a net loser in that conversation. Of course, if you're a coffee farmer, you'll not count the fertilizer, you'll not count your land, you just look at the money you're earning when you sell your red cherry. But in essence, if you did the math, you're losing. So we know that for coffee, we have to focus on value addition up to roast, up to roasted coffee. That's when we get out of the pit. So the kind of intervention is informal. We have done this work in collaboration with the National Planning Authority. So we know for every agricultural commodity, where should we intervene? Value addition, I've already mentioned coffee, banana, so higher value products. And when you earn more money, it trickles down back to the farmer. Then we are also looking at how we can localize production of some of the inputs, critical inputs for agriculture. For example, high quality organic fertilizers, pesticides, acaricides, etc. Joram, we are also working on irrigation systems, locally produced irrigation systems. We have already localized a pump controller, which is, for all intents and purposes, more than 60% of the cost of a pump. We are also working on induction motors, so we have already localized 80% of the pump, and by the end of this year, we'll have a fully designed and manufactured pump in Uganda. There are other secondary interventions. For example, we need to open up external markets. We need to ensure that the products, much as they may be of high value, they are up to the right standard so that they are able to penetrate global markets. I should tell you, last month, we hit a very important milestone. PIBID, the Presidential Initiative on Banana Industrial Development, obtained ISO certification for food manufacturing systems. So it can now be able to export anywhere in the world. So those are some of the interventions that we are putting in place, so that we produce enough at primary level, we add value, but we're also able to export anywhere in the world.
Now, we out of time, so I'll be taking the parting shots of my two guests this evening. But I'll start with the Minister. And I want the Minister to help us understand more on the issue to do with funding, which has become a very critical bit of, you know, thing for every ministry, really. It's becoming a very huge challenge. And when it comes to the world of innovation, it is another big challenge there. So I wonder the role of the Secretariat in ensuring that there is sufficient financial resources being allocated to the STI sector, but then also looking into your projection of the STI this year of 2025 as we are summing up this evening.
Thank you very much, Joram. Now, everything is about money. Yes. Without money, you can't do much.
Yes.
But the difference is that we look at money put in STI as investment, not expenditure. Because for each shilling you give us, we are promising to have a return on it. We will have many more times a return on it. So what are our sources of funding? Of course, the main funder is government. What are we doing is to show the value. You know, initially when I took over as minister, it was very difficult to explain to people the importance of STI because they didn't see anything coming out. For years and years they have been investing and nothing is coming out. But now that we have managed to bring some things to show you the value, I mean, you invest $1 million US and make $37 million US. Out of the diagnostics, what is more multiplicative, and this in a very short time. Then to engage science, STI is not a very commonly understood thing, how it actually impacts on the economy, but to engage and explain to the different stakeholders for them to understand. But again, we are saying most of the money coming from government into STI should be seen as seed capital. We should be able to multiply by attracting investment, venture capital investment into the country. So that's one thing that we do very well. Then we also want to make sure that we have reached the export markets. Everybody knows Uganda for exporting raw materials. But now if you say you are producing buses, it's not something going to naturally because not many people know us as producing buses. So we want to make sure that we are exporting so that we begin to actually multiply that money. This financial year, we have requested for 600 billion. We are discussing and we know that the Minister of Finance will be able, because they know the value of this. This is something to plant and in about 2 to 3 years, they'll be able to come back and harvest. Thank you so much.
All right. And thank you for your time. Now, lastly, Dr. Cosmas, I would want to take your parting shots. And I wonder, though, from the side of the STI sector, how is the Secretariat, you know, supporting innovation in healthcare, then also improving of the local manufacturing industry? If you can end with that.
Thank you, Joram. I should mention that the pathogen economy was actually our pioneer industrial value chain. And we have built a lot of competence in this area. We started out, for example, in vaccines. We are the only country in Africa that pursued end-to-end development of vaccines from idea to the market. We are somewhere along the path. We have 3 vaccines that have completed what we call preclinical trials, meaning they are ready now to enter clinical trials in humans. Now, Joram, this is our Ugandan IP, intellectual property. Our vaccine, we call them backbones, have already attracted funding of more than 20 billion shillings from our development partners to develop new vaccines for other diseases of interest, including Crimean Congo, hemorrhagic fever, including Rift Valley virus, and many others. So that shows the traction. And not just human vaccines, but animal vaccines as well. The anti-tick vaccine is entering phase 2 clinical trials in animals. We have developed a vaccine for foot and mouth disease. I've already talked about the progress that we made in diagnostics. We have put more than 1,000 specialized pieces of equipment in our research institutions to engender this work. Our next step is to ensure that this that we complete what we've started is the Biosciences Park, where we are going to put in place facilities to ensure that we bridge the gap between research and development and industry. And trust me, once we do that, Uganda will be unstoppable.
All right. Yeah. And there we have it. Again, allow me to reintroduce my guests this evening that we've been having from the time we started at 8:30 p.m. We've been having Dr. Monica Msenero Masanza, the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation. Thank you very much for joining us, Honorable.
It has been a pleasure to be with you.
All right, indeed. The pleasure has been ours hosting you. And she has moved with Dr. Cosmas Muchirize, the Superintendent of Value Chains Development. Again, Dr. Cosmas, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Joram. Good night, viewers.
And of course, he has been in the space of the Undersecretary of the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. Now, next week on Monday, when we do return, we shall be having the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. Please do make sure you join us again, Monday, 8:30 p.m. The Monday night conversations do end here on the 20th of January, but stick around to your national broadcaster. Today, science, technology, innovation, whatever you've picked, you can easily build onto that. For the students who are within the sector, there is too much hope, I should say, for what our sector is going to be looking like, or what the STI looks like in Uganda. So, buckle up, and you never know where you will be heading to. I'm Joram Ssonko. This is UBC Frontbench. The hashtag is UBC Frontbench. The phone number is 0709-602592. The conversations do continue online. Please do not. We address your leaders. We engage your leaders as they address the concerts. Good evening and a blessed week to you all.
Oh, Uganda, may God uphold thee. We lay our future in thy hand. United, free for liberty, together we'll always stand. Oh, Uganda, the land of freedom, our love and labor we give, and with neighbors all at our country's call, in peace and friendship we'll live. Oh, Uganda, the land that feeds us by sun.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Every organization and individual has a unique